Hi, today we will see how to create a .NET project for the APIs with the new concept of APIs called minimal APIs. So if you don't know what is minimal APIs, it is a new way of creating APIs without having any controllers. So in traditional way, if you're creating any API controllers, this might be your MVC project look like. So you would have a new controller class, let's say weather forecast class. You put some attributes here, API controller, the route, and it should derive from the controller base. You would define some kind of variables which you want to return and the APIs. And this is the get endpoint that you have here. So the name would be get weather forecast. And here is the logic. What data should return when you hit this API, right? And if you look into the minimal API approach in this way, if you notice, we do not have any controller class here. First thing we need is the model. Here we had this weather controller is returning this weather forecast. For that, what we are doing is we have this weather forecast class here, and both are using this one as a response. Next, here we were doing the a get method with the HTTP get attribute with name property. What we're doing here is we're calling this map get and we are mapping this endpoint to this lambda function. So this lambda function will execute whenever you hit this endpoint. Okay, that means you do not need to create a new class with API controller and derive from controller base. And this is what we are trying to do today with a .NET version 9. So I can check my .NET version is 9, and I will use .NET CDK. I will not use any Visual Studio for creating a new project. So what I will do is I will first try to list the template I have installed. These are the standard template. If you still want to create API controller, you can go with this API controller, or if you want MVC, you can go with MVC. For this video, we will go with the web API. And in web API, you can see we can select C# or F#, but I doubt you will go for this one. And if you want to build some kind of a full stack application with Angular React, you can go with Angular or React here. Okay, so we will get started with web API. So what I will do, I will clear again, and I will say .NET new web API. I want to give name as to-dos API to my project name. Let's create a project. Project is created. I can go to that project directory. I can do the list. There are some files here. Next step, I will build my application. Application is being built successful. And I will run whatever I have got from my new project. So I will just say .NET run, and application has started on the port 5151. Let's see if I can hit this one. Curl, and the endpoint we will have would be weather forecast. So here is weather forecast, and you can see we can get the data here. Let me open the project into a VS Code now. Yeah, let's address the author. And this is what my project look like. Let me zoom in. You should see that. Okay, this is the project structure I have. As you can see, there is only one file called program.cs. We have some summaries here, some strings, and this is the endpoint weather forecast we just hit here. Okay, and we were getting this kind of random temperature. We are getting this summary as chilly and the date. For that, the date is using from this add days here, then the random number here for the temperature, and here is the text from either of them. We can test that in Postmap as well. Postman, let me get the Postman copy here. If you do not know, you can directly call the Postman APIs from the VS Code. You need to install the extension, and from that, you can directly hit the API from here. Okay, let's do one thing now. Let's try to create another endpoint called to-dos. So what I will do is record to do, and I would say first is int id, then I would say string name. Okay, I will go with this approach then. String name and boolean status. This is my record. I want to have some kind of random to-do name, so I will just say to-dos, and I will go with task one. And let me go here. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next thing I need is another endpoint. So let me copy this endpoint, paste it here. This endpoint should be to-dos. I want to have this to-dos, and I will put a name as a get to-dos. What do I want to return? I want to return a new record here. By the way, this is another way of creating the class. So if I open browser again, if you notice, we were returning the array of weather forecast, and weather forecast was a public class with some properties as a model, right? And this model array we were returning here. In .NET 9, if you do not need to create this kind of model, you can use a record type. And here you specify the properties. If you want to define some derived properties, you can define it like these properties here. Okay, coming back. So here in to-dos, I want to return to-dos array. So this is to-do. I will say here to-dos. Here it's return to-dos here. First is index. So I will just pass ID as index here. Second is name. So I want to take some random to-dos. So I will say to-dos. I can, no, to-dos is here. And okay, so I will just say random here because I have the same to-dos object name here. So I will just put it here, random to-dos. And the last one is the status. So all of them should be false. Now, add parameter to-do string. Let's see what happens here. Remove this one. And this should be to-dos. We'll go here. Okay. And now why is complaining? There is no argument that's parameter dash to do int bool and object. Okay, because I added here object by typo. So let's see what we have. We have got a to-do record which accept ID, name, status. We have ID as index, which is a random array here. Then we have name. So name we will take it from this array randomly from the length. So instead of summary, we can put to-dos here. Doesn't matter, it's a random one. Random to-dos, not to-dos, random to-dos. And at the last is status, which is by default false. So now let's try to restart our application. I was running application here. So let me stop with Control C and I will run it one more time. It's compiling, it's done. Now let's go back. Check the weather forecast is running properly. Then I will open the another endpoint and I say to-dos here. Hit the endpoint and I should get the random task here. If I hit it multiple times, the task name should be randomized. And the same you can do with console if you want to do this. Like here you can say instead of this one, to do's, and you should get array. That's it. And if you have any question or queries, you can drop into the chat. Thank you.